Hello and welcome to my channel. So I am doing a 6-part series in which I'm going to be testing a bunch of water-based art supplies on different papers and finding out which ones work. Now this is going to include tone paper as well as different watercolor papers and mixed media. So I'm really excited to do this series. And these are just a few of the things that are going to be covered in this series. Part 2 is the Faber-Castell Albrecht Duerer Magnus watercolor pencils. The reason it's the Magnus is because I don't have the other ones. And personally, I like the Magnus because otherwise I tend to death grip the other ones, and this helps me not get hand cramps. So that's our second one. The papers I'm going to be testing are the black mixed media Strathmore paper, the tone gray mixed media paper, also from Strathmore. The last Strathmore one is the toned blue mixed media paper. I have Canson mixed media paper in white. For watercolor paper, there is the Fabriano Studio Watercolor Hot Press paper. Then for cold press, I'm going to be using the Winsor & Newton cold press paper. So how I have this set up is I'm going to try very similar things on the 3-tone papers and see how they work. Just see what the opacity is, how bright the colors are, and then on the different white papers, I'm going to be trying the blending of 2 of them together and how they interact with each other and when the paper is wet. So I'm going to tape these down to a clipboard and let's get started on the testing. So similarly to part 1, I'm going to be testing a couple different things and they're going to be very similar tests. I might just switch up the colors and oh boy. So the tip just broke on this. This isn't a quality issue of these watercolor pencils. They were damaged when they arrived to me, so pay no attention if a little chunk comes out of the lead. Like half of them had broken tips when they arrived. So I'm going to be testing things like the white and what it does, and I'm using, again, a water brush. I haven't done much with the white yet, but honestly that white did not go as far as I've had other colors go with it. So that's something. And I'm also trying something very pale. It's supposed to be cream color. Just very pale yellow. Just to see how something very light shows up. And then some other colors as well. So one thing I was noticing that the white and the cream I don't think are as pigmented in general, so when I was trying to pull out the colors, it just wasn't going as far. And I'm going to do the purple again, which just to test it shows a little bit of a darker purple. Oddly, in the set there's not many purples. And then just for fun, I'm going to do a couple other colors as well. So doing these darker colors on the black just made them disappear. That was not exactly something I was expecting. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to be doing about that. Oh geez. Oh my goodness. So yeah, but so far, preliminary, I am thinking that I have a really cool project I want to do with the blue tone paper, and it seems like these might be one of the supplies I'm going to be using for that project. So I'm really excited about that. Oof, that was, I don't know, like, these are all three mixed media, and yet it just ended up acting so different on each of them. And honestly, this I might have gotten a little too much water. This isn't the best control of water. If I were going to be doing an illustration, I'd probably be using a regular brush, but yeah, at first I'm like, okay, maybe it's the colors I picked, but this didn't turn out too badly. Oops, still wet. I just don't know. Just a little bit too intense for the black. The gray, some of the colors really pop. The blue, they really pop, but I mean, it doesn't quite make sense why I'm having trouble with the gray and not the blue. So I'm just going to factor in a little bit of user issue there. Now going on to the white ones, just like before, I'm using a little bit of a crayon because I want to try a watercolor technique with them. And these are actually considered to be watercolor pencils. So that's a little why I wanted to try this technique. And it just makes a really cool effect. When I did it with the Caran Dash in part 1, it looked the best, and it actually looked nice on the cold press, which I think it's partially the texture that causes it. So I'm going to load up a bunch of pigment and also try it here. I don't know what's going to be the difference of these, but it looks fantastic on the cold pressed. And then you sort of got a little bit of the effect on these two, but not as well as the cold press. So that's going to be, I think, a texture factor to it. Now I'm going to blend two colors together, and I sort of switched it up from what I did for the other video color-wise. And the reason I was shocked with some of these was I've had it on like other paper stretch for so much farther, so I was sort of shocked why the pigments weren't stretching as much on these. So this was the type of blend I was trying to get over here, and I had a little bit of trouble. I definitely had a user error. I should have gone from the light to the dark on this top one, but I feel like the results are pretty self-explanatory. This one just kept on getting stuck. I also think I got a little bit too much water here, and then this I didn't have enough, but then it got again stuck, so I wasn't able to quite bring it all the way down. But as a whole, it might be slightly easier to blend if you did the overlapping one. I think it might work slightly better. So now going to go on to seeing how far the black will go. I was not expecting the cold press to bring the pigment a little bit farther than the other two. So that was a very interesting result. Yeah, definitely something I did not expect. Now one thing I'm going to try, I have a little extra space, so I'm going to try one more blending experiment. And I'm going to do it a little bit where they have some overlap. So as I suspected, that went a little bit better. Now over here, what I'm doing is I'm getting the paper wet and one of my clean areas. I'm going to see how the pigment spreads on wet paper. Normally I would have all four corners taped down, but I'm trying to record all 6 parts. Ooh, yeah, definitely have some pigment spread right away on the cold press. Okay, so all of them seem to be spreading, but for some reason, I think maybe it's a lack of texture. It might be spreading a little bit more on the mixed media paper. Yeah, that might be the case. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try blending directly on the paper with a brand new color. The color is very different on all 3, and I am surprised how I can say different 10,000 times apparently today. It's just one of those things where it's like this, the blended color sort of mixed together when I added the water and continued, whereas when I tried doing it with the hot press and the mixed media, it just sort of didn't all want to pick up and it just became really watery. And I had made sure to get any excess water off, and I tried adding more, it didn't help. This one, it just ended up moving, so that's a very interesting result where I think that, here I'm jumping to my final thoughts on it. I think for these to stretch out the colors the most, the cold press actually works the best. When you look at how the black was, how it pulled all this, I didn't add any extra water when I did these two while I was doing the black, and the black faded a lot quicker, except this one, it didn't fade as quick. And then also, especially this test right here, just mixing it and then dragging it along, it just kept the color going. So yeah, definitely I think for what I'd want to be doing with this is I'd want to be using the cold press watercolor paper, and then as for the mixed media, I'm really excited to see how it did on the blue because I have a project to do on the blue mixed media, but it did pretty well on the gray. The black, ooh, I'm gonna have to avoid the black with these. So yeah, those are my results for the Faber-Castell Albrecht Duerer Magnus watercolor pencils. The only difference between the Magnus and the not Magnus is just these are thicker. They're supposed to be for backgrounds, but if you tend to clench pencils, they're really good for that. So those are my thoughts. In the comments, tell me what paper I should do an illustration on with the Albrecht Duerer ones, and I will get to that in the next few weeks. I say few weeks because it does take me a while to do a full illustration. Alright, I'll see you in the next part. Bye.